This content is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only.
What is up, YouTube? It is Justin Jennings here from Jennings Performance Coaching. Today, we're going to be talking about what do you need to focus on to optimize your physique. So there's four major factors that play into developing a physique. You've got training, nutrition, drugs, and recovery. So we are going to rank those today from number one being the most important. So spend most of your time worrying about this. Most of your effort for optimization should be put into this area, all the way down to number four. So not necessarily not important, but the least important for optimizing your outcome, optimizing your physique. This is part one in a five-part series. So today we're going to go through the rankings, and then next week we'll talk about number one, how to optimize that, how to make some changes, some areas that people normally struggle with, and then so on and so forth until we get all the way down to number four, and then you'll know how to build the physique that you want to see. So without further ado, number one is going to be nutrition. Yes, nutrition ahead of drugs, nutrition ahead of training, and nutrition ahead of recovery. Diet is king. I don't care how many drugs you take, how hard you train. If you have the perfect training program, the perfect split, you're doing every exercise, length and partials, all the way to failure, super high volume, and you can recover from it. It doesn't matter. If you're not eating the way you're supposed to be, if if you're trying to gain muscle and you're not eating enough and you're not eating clean, a lot of guys make the mistake of trying to put on muscle, and so they just go on a seafood diet, eat everything, McDonald's three times a day, and then they get fat. And so that's not going to work. Also, guys just aren't eating enough to grow. They're trying to grow. You're eating two, maybe three meals a day, not enough protein. That's just not going to work out. You're not going to see the results that you want to see. Uh, Inversely, if you're trying to get lean, you can't just eat whatever you want. You have to you have to be in a caloric deficit. Your nutrition has to be dialed in. So if you're wanting to, optimize your physique, you're wanting to build a physique, nutrition is going to be number one. Number two is going to be training. So with training, uh, it's behind nutrition because, like I said, you can't. It doesn't matter how hard you train, how optimal your training is, insert whatever word here, however your training is, if you're not eating right, you're not going to get where you want to be. Some people are going to argue that drugs should be in front of training because, drugs will make you grow. And for sure, drugs will make you grow. There's studies on that. But let's say, if you don't know how to train and you don't understand how to break plateaus or how to hit the target muscle that you need to grow or whatever, your drugs aren't going to do you any good. If you're trying to get bigger quads and you're doing low bar squats where you're sitting back and down and you think, man, my quads aren't growing, I better take some more drugs or I better start taking drugs. You put the drugs in and your glutes just grow and because you were never targeting the quads. Same thing, Dr. Todd Lee said something about this. If you're trying to train the bicep and you're doing just this right here as a bicep curl, you're going to put drugs in and you're going to grow your shoulders and your forearms. You're not going to grow your biceps. So, understanding how to train, how to target the target musculature and how to scale volume, intensity, all of that stuff to all of that stuff so that it makes sense, so that your training is dialed in, is going to be way ahead of putting in drugs. So, and people are going to say that Well, on the Olympia stage, most of the guys there are doing the same thing as far as drugs, but they're all training different. They're all, some of them train high volume, some of them train low volume. And we can talk about that later. It really kind of comes out in the wash as far as all the specifics. But if you don't understand how to program or how to do the exercises correctly, drugs don't matter. Number three, number three is going to be recovery. So number three, recovery. It's behind nutrition and behind training. It's behind training because it doesn't matter how well recovered you are. If you're not training right, you're not going to grow. You don't need, if you're going in the gym and just absolutely half-assing everything, you don't need to recover from a stimulus that's not there. You don't need to recover from fatigue that's not being generated. But recovery is going to be ahead of drugs because we've seen it time and time again in contest bodybuilding. The guys that have their recovery dialed in and are, well recovered are getting more out of less drugs. If you have a guy, stepping on stage and his recovery's in the tank, he's not sleeping, uh, he's going to be watery. He's going to be inflamed. One of two things is going to happen. Either either you're going to push diuretics to try to get all that cortisol water off of him and all that inflammation off of him, and he's going to come in stringy, or he's not going to come in dry enough. He's going to look inflamed. Just a worse overall look when your recovery's not dialed in. Also, if you're not recovering and you're like, man, I'm not growing, because your fatigue's super high and you just keep piling more drugs in, that's going to contribute to your overall allostatic load. It's going to wreak havoc on your health. It's not what you want. You don't want to be putting your drugs ahead of your recovery as far as, pushing those up. You need to be sleeping plenty, need to be eating plenty, need to be handling your stress, uh, before you try to make adjustments with your drugs to be growing. So that means, lastly, we have the least important factor for building the physique that you want, and that is performance enhancing drugs or gear. So, obviously, if you're a natural right now and you add in performance enhancing drugs, you're going to see a big benefit. But if you're already taking performance enhancing drugs, everybody wants to be a biochemist whenever they're doing their stack design. We want to take all these mitochondrial peptides. We want to take, DHB, mint. We want to get exotic with it. It's not that complicated. All the top guys are pretty much doing the same thing as far as their drugs go. There's not a lot of You don't need to spend a lot of mental bandwidth to get this stuff right. Uh, you got your test. You have another androgenic anabolic, whether it's EQ, Mast, Primo, uh, whatever, and Nandrolone that you got in there, growth hormone, and some guys have insulin in there. And that's pretty much what it looks like for everybody. You don't get a lot out of really spending time worrying about this stuff mentally be on steroid plotter, checking your esters, and do I have a little sawtooth or is it a smooth line, and checking your accumulation and all that stuff. It's a waste of time. It All that effort, you're not going to see a meaningful difference worrying about your injection frequency and injection timing and timing your growth hormone and all that stuff. So that's why it's last. Obviously, drugs are going to grow muscle, but like I said earlier, they don't grow specific tissue. Uh, they grow all your tissue. If you're like me and you need bigger delts and a bigger chest, and your programming is not correct for you to get bigger delts and a bigger chest, it doesn't matter how many drugs you take. You're not going to get to where you want to be. Uh, Drugs don't make you lose fat. Some of them do, I guess. Yeah, playing DMP, all that stuff. But if you're not in a caloric deficit, it doesn't work. Uh, Drugs won't build you muscle. If you are in a caloric deficit, and you're trying to gain, if you're not eating enough, drugs won't do that either. We already talked about what happens when guys try to push PEDs up instead of, recovering like they're supposed to be. They get hurt, they get sick, their health starts to fail. So that is why I've got gear up here at number 4. So, guys, just a quick recap, the most important factors to worry about if you want to optimize your physique. So we're looking at number 1 is nutrition. Number 2 is going to be training. Number 3, recovery. Number 4, drugs. So tune in next week. We're going to talk about how to optimize your nutrition or how to set up your nutrition to get you to where you want to be, whether that's bigger, whether that's leaner, whether that's some combination of the two. Thank you guys. Remember, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this list. If you agree with it, let me know. If you don't, tell me I'm an idiot. Tell me why you think I'm an idiot. Guys, again, I'm Justin from Jennings Performance Coaching. My Instagram link to coaching website is down in the description. If you like what you see here, go over there, give me a follow. I'll have my newsletter down there as well. Every week, we talk diet, we talk training, we talk PDs, mindset, everything that contributes to how you're going to look, we talk about it. So, thanks for watching, and until next